Hey, Dan here, and this is a bit of a special video. I usually do not do videos about things going on in the world, but special times call for a special situation. And it just so happens that I have been following this coronavirus since the beginning of the year. One of my very good friends and his girlfriend, who's also a good friend, have been in Beijing since January. This friend, you may have heard me even mention him on the channel. He's the guy that I first moved to Germany with, to Europe, from Canada back in 2012. So needless to say, we've been staying in touch a lot as this thing started in China. And he is an ENTP, so like me, is forward thinking about what could happen, the possibilities, and was very well prepared for what happened there. And through my contact with them, I was seeing what was going to be happening in the rest of the world. What is happening today as I film this video, I'm filming it from Spain. So the other reason I've been paying a lot of attention to this is I have been living in Spain for the last little bit and kind of figured something was going to happen here as well. So I've been paying a lot of attention to this stuff. And the reason I'm making this video is I find myself going to all my friends and family. And for the last couple weeks, I did not want to be that fear-monger conspiracy guy being like, hey, make sure you stock up on this, make sure you do this. So I was not making a video about it. I was not sharing this knowledge with people because it's not really what Dreams Around the World usually is about. But as I found myself on maybe 5 hours of phone calls yesterday with family in New Zealand, friends in China, family and friends in Canada, around Europe, telling them what I know, and people coming to me saying, hey, what is this going on? And to me, I assumed sort of everyone was up to date, and obviously not the case. There's also a lot of misinformation out there. So this is going to be a long video. My intention here is that this can serve as a really complete guide to what is going on, not only to understand what it is and why this is really important to know about what this virus is now and what impact it is going to have on the world and you in the next year, but also what you can do about it. A big portion of the video will be for that. I may film a follow-up video, so if you do have questions I do not cover here, do leave them below in the comments. If you ask a question that I obviously covered here, I will probably mock you, but that's just what I do on this channel. So, you know, it's all in good fun. So I want to start with a few things that you really need to understand about this. The first thing, this is not the flu. In fact, if someone says to you, don't worry, this is just the flu, I'm 30, I don't need to worry about it. The protocol, I believe, is to put on latex gloves, put on a mask, and hit that person in the face. If you care about people who perhaps got naked to make you, or the people who got naked to make the person who then got naked to make you, you should care about this. It does affect younger people less than older people, for sure, but what the hell does that mean? Like suddenly we're like, oh, we don't care about the older people? That's insane. The thing with this is it spreads before you have any symptoms. And I know we all love to feel we're special. We all love to think like, I'm not sick, it wouldn't happen to me. No one knows who has it or who doesn't. For all I know, I have it right now. For all you know, you have it. I probably have a higher chance of having it since I'm recording it from Spain and I took the subway to tennis lessons the other day. But nonetheless, there is always a chance you do. And this is why when you see stuff about like, don't wear masks because they don't protect you that well, the point of masks, the way people wear them in Asia, is to protect other people because no one knows who is sick. So it's not this selfish, I have the mask, I'm protected. It's, if we all wear masks, we'll all be protected because we don't know who is sick. Of the people who will get this COVID-19 coronavirus, about 80% will have mild symptoms. Now that still means it might suck. It's like having the flu for a week or two. You're going to have a cough, chills, pains. It's not like a great time at the beach, despite all those corona commercials. But what it means is 20% of people are going to need a lot more care. From what I've heard, and I should say with this whole video, I've been reading up on this, following some really, really wise people on this. But these are not, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to quote sources on this. I don't think anyone knows these numbers for sure as of this recording anyhow. So, the WHO says something different than the CDC, which says something different than the UK Health Services, NHS. So this is what it is. But roughly 12% of people who get this will need intensive care at a hospital. And yes, this includes young people as well. Not as much, but it definitely includes young people. And if you do suffer from high blood pressure, diabetes, if you're overweight, if you're a smoker, all these things will increase the chances of you having a very serious episode with this. I don't know if episode is the right term, but I'm going to use that. Here's what becomes a really big problem and what is really, really important to understand and why we need to take action is that the amount of intensive care beds hospitals have ranges. I've been looking it up in Europe. I do not know every country in the world, but in Europe it ranges from 1 bed to every 3,300 people or so in Germany to 1 bed every 20,000 or so people in some countries. That means there's 1 intensive care bed for every 20,000 people. Now, from what I've been seeing in countries, when there are more than 500 cases in a city like Madrid has a a lot of cases now. I haven't even checked the news today. But Madrid here in Spain, when they were at about 1,000 cases, they already said our hospitals are full. We need doctors to come from the rest of the country to come support us. And they're out of intensive care beds. So the normal mortality rate of this, again, estimates are all over the map. Somewhere between 1% and 3% is what you hear. And I'm not going to get into why it might be higher or lower. There's a lot behind that. I could do a 10-hour YouTube live on this, but know that the rate is somewhere between 1% and 3%. But that is with proper hospital care. The reason that the rate is looking higher in Italy, one of the reasons could be that doctors are exhausted. Doctors and nurses then get this, and then they have less doctors and nurses to be able to work because they're sick. Some of them do die as well, including younger doctors. So you have these doctors who are really exhausted. You don't have enough equipment. That means the mortality rate does not stay at 1%, 2%, or 3%. Then we're looking at a very different scenario. This is why we have to take the measures. I'll talk about those measures later in the video to reduce the spread, because the more we can slow this down, the less hospitals are overwhelmed, the more time there are for factories to be repurposed to make medical equipment that is needed for, believe it or not, China to start sending equipment to the West. They're already sending their experts and equipment to Italy to help. So when I get to the section about what you can do, know that it is really important. Even if you're young or healthy, it's important for all of us to take action and reduce the speed that this thing spreads. By the way, don't forget, if you are like me and you're someone who takes this seriously and really cares about your friends and family, and like me has been messaging people like crazy, trying to let them know about what's up and the best practices and everything else, feel free. And in fact, I would encourage you to copy this link, share this video with friends and family. It will help get better information out there. And I think if we're all prepared a little bit better, things will go so much smoother and better for all of us around the world. Now, if you are a subscriber to the channel, you know that I'm all about human nature and psychology and how we think. And one of the things we know about people is humans suck at math. We really suck at exponential thinking. We're okay at thinking linearly, like, okay, today I have 1, then I have 2, then I have 3. We're not really good at thinking I have 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. And doubling numbers. And that's why people and governments, especially here in Europe, I gotta say, have been reacting terribly. Now, you'd think people would know how to look at basic charts and do some basic calculations, but like here in Spain, on the 8th of March, there was something like 200-300 cases. Cases were doubling, I think it was every 2 days, and they held a march with something like 1 million people where the government encouraged people to go out to this march. And you can imagine that that is not good, right? Especially when usually the case, so whatever numbers you see anywhere are usually a week or 2 behind what is actually there. 1, because it takes time to show up, so people have symptoms, so they get tested. And 2 is countries just aren't testing that much. So whatever numbers you see, the odds are it is a lot higher than that in reality. This is why I'm really impressed to see some countries like the Czech Republic and Canada taking action now when they don't have that many cases, because they know that the real numbers they have are higher, and that if they wait, it's going to be too late for measures to be taken. So I'm sharing this not to freak you out, although maybe to freak you out a little bit. It is important we all take this seriously. But one of the things you really do need to understand is this is going to be something serious, and it's going to be lasting. The most optimistic predictions are 3 to 4 months. I think countries like Canada, maybe New Zealand, countries that seem to be acting fairly aggressively right now and have good healthcare systems, may come out of this in a few months where things go back to normal. But I'm preparing on my end, and we may do a video, me and Gabby will film something about what we're doing here in Spain and kind of this experience. But we're preparing for this to be 3 to 4 months. We're gonna go today and buy some board games and cards, and I might buy an Xbox. I left my Xbox back in Prague because we were starting this fun around the world trip. And because I think they will close retail stores, all stores, within 2 to 3 days. And that may last for 2 to 3 months. And that's the preparation. Now, if some miracle happens, which it's not going to in the next 2 or 3 months, then great, things might change. But I'm looking at this as a mindset that there will be, once a city gets an overwhelming amount, or a country gets, that you have what's called community spread, that the lockdown and the isolation that will have to happen, and it's happening in Italy already, it's happening in South Korea, and it does work, that's something I'm gonna get to, is once that's happening, it's gonna be 2 or 3 months, and that's just going to be life. So you can go into it day to day and just say, it'll be fine and whatever, and then be one of those people you see lined up with 1 million people every day to get like your one piece of bread. That's not really gonna happen. There's actually no risk, I think, to the food supply in any country. So don't freak out, don't overstock. But you can prepare in advance mentally and think, okay, this is gonna be a few months, and I'm already thinking, okay, do I use this time to like learn a language or write a book? We're gonna buy some exercise mats so we can, try to stay a little bit healthy. How can we make the most of this time while being responsible and everything else? If you go into this and think it's gonna get better next week, every week you're gonna be disappointed and it's gonna suck. So you have to go in with that mindset of this is going to be a very intense year. People around are going to be afraid. People are gonna go into a scarcity mindset. We are not gonna have the level of social interactions. Shout out to my ENFP friends. We are not going to have the level of social interactions that we need and are used to. And we're going to have to come up with alternatives for that. And if you start thinking ahead now, you can come up with solutions, and this year can be okay for you, maybe even great. I started doing this with both my life and my business 2 weeks ago. I saw where this was going. I apologize now for not making this video then. But when I generally talk to people about this, they treated me like I was a little wacky. And I've been thinking about, okay, what does this mean? How to make the most of this time? And once you start thinking that way, once you just accept here is what the world is gonna look like for the next little while, and what can I do to be a great member of my community, a great friend and family member to the people I care about. Hence I mentioned things like phoning people. You might be brave, but the people around you or your family members may not be. In my case, I think I was the one calling for reassurance, but in other cases it may be different. So be there for those people. But there will be opportunities to make the most. Like, hey, I'm locked up. Cool, I don't have to go to work now. I can work remotely and learn a language on the side, or become a freelancer, or get really close with my partner because we can play the same board game for 3 months in a row. Whatever it is, there's going to be opportunity if you think ahead. Don't think day to day with this thing. Now, some more things you can and should do during this time. On the psychological side, if you haven't seen my video on human needs psychology, I recommend watching that now or maybe rewatching it. And the reason is it's about our 6 human needs and what really helps us basically maintain our sanity. And it's things like the need for certainty, the need for connection, the need for significance. And if you think, okay, I'm going to be in somewhat of a lockdown, cities will become in a lot of places, not everywhere, but that's going to be Spain within a few days. It's going to be a lot of Europe and probably parts of North America for sure. Is if you know you're going to be there, start thinking psychologically about your needs. Like, if you have a need for connection with people and you're not going to be able to go out and see your friends as much, start doing daily video calls with your friends. Like, start now, don't wait until you're going nuts. If you have a need for certainty, one of the things that can be really calming is to watch an old TV show or play an old video game. I started playing some weird old Japanese, well, not even weird, but this old Japanese RPG and looking at downloading some Sega Dreamcast games, because it's just like calming to play a game you used to play when you were, a kid. So think of these things in advance and think about your needs and what you can kind of plan for so that psychologically you're going to be good during this time and make good decisions. I mentioned earlier in the video, humans are really bad at thinking about time and numbers. And one of those things is with time in isolation or time apart. There is a massive difference. Anyone can spend 2 days in prison or isolation, right? A couple days, you're like, I can do this, I can handle it. There's a massive difference between like day 2 and day 4 and day 4 and day 7. And anyone who's had that experience can share that with you. It's the same with like traveling or being away from your partner or friends or family. Like the first few days, it's just like the same and you're like, hey, and then it becomes a new world. Wherever you are, like becomes different. And it really does change with time. So don't underestimate what 3, 4, 5 months in some kind of isolation, not full isolation, don't get me wrong, but what a really locked down kind of dead city or place might be like. Start preparing for that now. Start really thinking about that and it will make it such a better experience. Now for these next suggestions to make sense, one of the things you have to understand is how viral load works, which I don't fully understand, but I'm gonna do my best to explain it. Again, I'm not a doctor or a scientist, but some of us, myself included, until about 10 years ago, had this thought that you either kind of get a virus or you don't. Like if you get one little bit on you, you have the virus and it doesn't matter how much you have, right? Like in for a penny, in for a pound, they say. Turns out that's not the case. When I was starting to travel, a friend of mine who is an incredible doctor gave me some advice about disease and all that and explained things to me. And basically your immune system starts to go to battle right away. And if you have, so there's a big difference. Like if I touch a handle and someone had a virus and they had a little bit on their hand, not a lot, and they touched that handle an hour ago and I get a little bit, there's a very, very good chance my immune system will just fight that off. Like it will sort of not even get going in my body. It will just be taken out before much happens. If that person did a massive cough, and with the coronavirus, you get the highest viral load in something when you're like coughing from your lungs. If someone did a massive cough in my face, my immune system's not gonna be able to react for that right away. And so there's a much higher chance that virus established. You can always think of a virus as like an invading army, right? If 2 of their soldiers land on your beach, you're pretty, your soldiers, and now we're all generals, right? Your soldiers are gonna be able to fight off those 2 soldiers, no big deal. If 10,000 of their soldiers show up and you're like, oh, what's happening? And then by the time you see them, they've been making babies, they have 30,000 soldiers, you're gonna have a lot more of a battle to be able to win. So having a strong immune system and taking action to reduce your exposure to the virus, even if there's a chance you get small amounts of exposure, is going to have a really good chance of helping. This is why some of the advice out there, like you hear about don't wear masks, they don't help at all. I think the reality is there's a shortage in masks, and especially the good ones that really work. There's a shortage, and they should be saved for medical providers right now. So don't go hoard masks. I think that's what the advice is, not that they don't actually work or help. There's no way they don't help if you use them properly, and that's advice I've got from people in the know. Anyhow, so things you can do to boost your immune system in advance. Vitamin C and zinc, while not proven obviously with this specific virus, because how would it be proven? There's not studies. No one's going around studying this right now. They're working on other things. Generally, those boost your immune system if taken in advance. Vitamin C will tend to reduce your chance of catching a common cold, which is also from a virus. And if you do get that cold, will reduce the length of it, how long it goes and the severity sometimes. So start taking vitamin C now. Vitamin D has been shown to have very positive effects at reducing your chances of catching, I believe it's a respiratory virus or bacterial infection, and making it more mild if you do get it. And again, I'm not going to reference these. I'm very confident with the numbers I've learned in here, but I'm just not a reference person. Take it or leave it. Nothing I'm advising here has any negative effects. So Vitamin D in general is very good for us to have. If you're in a place without a lot of sun and you have a vitamin D deficiency, taking it can have something like a 70% improvement in terms of lowering your risk of catching any kind of respiratory infection or virus and that. So vitamin D, I think a good number to look at is 2000 UI, which I forget in micrograms. I think it's 50 micrograms, but you want to look that up. But something like 2000 UI a day, just take that. Again, most people should take vitamin D every day anyhow, unless you're in a really sunny place. In Spain here, I don't think you can even buy vitamin D. So we've just been making sure to go out in the sun every day for like 20, 30 minutes. Really, really important to do this stuff. Other things you can do to boost your immune system include exercise, good sleep. Good sleep is really important. Stress, funny enough, stressing about a virus will really weaken your immune system. Yesterday was quite a stressful day for me. We basically had to decide if we leave Spain now, leave Europe essentially, or if we stay for the long haul. And I didn't sleep the night before, and so I was making sure to take a bunch of time off in the evening to rest, because being stressed is one of the worst things for your immune system, or having poor sleep. So you want to do as much as you can to really boost your immune system, eat healthy, all that stuff. And then you want to reduce your exposure to the virus. And the best way to do that, as it seems, is to wash your hands. And what I've been told from my friends in China is the hand washing routine should not only just be when you come home and like one time, but a couple times, like when you're at home, basically as much as possible, because there's a very good chance, and this is depending on how much of this awesome virus is in your city, of course, but from their perspective, being in Beijing he said, like, it might be on our jeans, it could be in places. So when you come home, your jacket and things, like, they wear masks, they leave that by the front door. So come home, wash their hands completely, then take off the mask, take off jackets and things like that, leave that by the front door, then wash your hands again. And then throughout the day, maybe every hour or two, wash your hands and really minimize touching your face. This is a really big one. That's generally how the virus gets in. It's not gonna get into you if there's some on your hand, on your arm, on your jeans, unless you transfer it. So that's where really trying to remember, don't touch your face, and washing hands frequently makes a really big deal. It sounds like when you first hear people just say, just wash your hands all the time. It's like, okay, like there's nothing else I can do, but that's why it makes a difference, because there's probably a good chance, again, not to freak you out, but if you do live somewhere with a lot of this virus, that stuff at the grocery store, like someone may have touched it who has touched something that has. So it's the best thing you can do is reduce your chance of transferring that to your face. Frequent hand washing. I'm not going to get into masks and different things like that, because the supply issues, like, you probably can't get them anyhow. And if you can, it's probably better to leave them for medical professionals and people who have to be exposed at this point. Now, when we do see production really pick up and masks become available again, I think everyone should be wearing at the minimal one of those surgical masks. If everyone wore that when they went out, transmission would go down dramatically. You may hear different things from people about the numbers China is sharing. They can't be trusted and all that. Early on, there was obviously a cover-up, there are all kinds of issues, but from everything I can figure out, the numbers China is sharing now are legit, and China's basically stopped this. Numbers are going down. I think in Beijing, there hasn't been new cases in days. My friends are starting to go out for the odd meal and stuff again, and that's because social distancing works. This virus can only spread between people. So if you keep your distance from people, you aren't touching people, this goes without saying, elbow bump if you have to, or just say, hey, what's up? Be that awkward person. Don't shake hands. People are still doing cheek kisses here in Spain, at least they were a day or two ago. And you're like, what is happening here? So this stuff works. This virus cannot spread unless people basically are connected more and more. So if we take a few weeks, a month, and really follow good social distancing, it is not going to spread, or at the very least, the spread will slow down a lot, so our doctors and nurses can maintain some level of sanity and ability to actually treat people. Now, I was planning to include some kind of a shopping list, something like that, things that you might want to get and prepare for. I'm just realizing this video is getting up there in length, and I also have a free freelancer call. My alarm just went off in 3 minutes. So what I'll do is I'll put up a page on my site with a summary of this advice, kind of a checklist. And if you do want to share that with friends and family, I know that one of the things I've been trying to do is share all this information with friends and family, and people aren't the best at listening. And so something you can send them is always possibly good. So I'll put that up on a page on my website. It will just be dreamsaroundtheworld.com/corona. And I'll put up kind of a shopping list and just a summary of these points. One thing you should buy a bit of now, just a bit, because don't go hoarding. We need to keep everyone taken care of. Buy, let's say 20 to 30 pills per person in your household of Tylenol or paracetamol. If you're in Europe, that's what it's called, for fever. If by chance you do get this, there's a very, very good chance it will be mild or kind of medium. And in that case, you may have a fever that you will need to treat, and it might be hard to go to the hospital, or you may just not be able to go to the hospital. So having something that can at least help treat the fever is going to make that a little easier for you, and fluids as well. So Tylenol or paracetamol, depending on where in the world you are, and something like 3 liters of Gatorade for every person in your household, something like that. You could also get like Sprite or juice or whatever. Gatorade seemed like a default. That's what I'll include here, but I'll include a larger list on that page as well. If you have questions, as I'm sure people might, let me know in the comments. As I said, I could do a 20-hour video on this, and I want to be here to answer your questions and share whatever knowledge I can, because they're so, I talk to very intelligent people I know, and the misinformation they have or what they think is true, and it's scary. So I'm going to do my best to be a positive contributing member to the world right now, and share what I can here. So let me know below in your comments, in your comments. Let me know in the comments any questions you have, and do share this with friends, family, anyone you think needs a rundown and maybe isn't taking this all that seriously, or is taking it seriously and is just looking for some more solid information on it. Thank you for watching. If you've just come across this video because it's about the coronavirus, COVID-19, and you don't know who I am Dan. My channel is Dreams Around the World, and normally I talk about how to become the best version of yourself and create an awesome life for you and those you love. And that's it. So you might like those videos. Consider subscribing or checking out some other videos on the channel. See you soon.